Commander John Baker stood stiffly in the gleaming conference room on the Zendurian flagship. The air felt too cold, the gravity slightly off. 5 other humans flanked him, all wearing the dark blue uniforms of Earth's Space Defense Force. Across from them, the Zendurian delegation watched with barely hidden amusement. The tall, blue-skinned Ambassador Krax pushed a small datapad across the polished table. His 6-fingered hand moved with elegant precision. His upper eye ridge twitched in what Baker had learned was a sign of contempt. "The terms of our agreement," Krax said. His translator made his voice sound smooth and artificial. "The Galactic Confederation welcomes Earth as an associate member. As promised, we will provide technological assistance." Baker took the pad and scanned the document. His face remained neutral, but his stomach tightened. This wasn't assistance. This was an insult. Decommissioned vessels. Outdated components. Baker looked up. "This is all scrap." The Octari representative, a squat orange being with multiple eye stalks, made a bubbling sound that the humans now recognized as laughter. "What did you expect, Commander?" the Octari asked. "Your species only achieved faster-than-light travel 30 years ago. You've barely left your own solar system. Be grateful for what the Confederation offers." Chief Engineer Susan Miller stepped forward slightly. Her red hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her green eyes sharp with intelligence. "This equipment list, some of these components are over 200 years old by your standards. Still centuries beyond Earth technology," another alien said dismissively. This one was a Pelrani, with gray skin that seemed to shift and ripple like liquid metal. "Unless you prefer no assistance at all." Baker and Miller exchanged glances. They had both expected this. The Confederation had found Earth 10 years ago. At first, humans had been excited to join a galactic community. But reality soon set in. Humanity was seen as primitive, barely worth notice. The alliance was really about keeping humans controlled, dependent, and weak. "We accept your generous offer," Baker said finally. He kept his voice even, hiding the spark of anger and determination building inside him. Ambassador Krax's mouth twisted into what might have been a smile. "Excellent. The materials will be delivered to your lunar facility within the month. We expect you'll need years to understand even the basics of what we've provided." The meeting ended quickly. The human delegation was escorted back to their own small transport vessel. Only when they were alone in Earth's orbit did Baker finally let his mask drop. "Those arrogant." He stopped himself and took a deep breath. Miller was already reviewing the complete inventory list on her tablet. "It's worse than they made it sound, John. This stuff is literally garbage to them." Baker moved to the viewport and looked down at Earth, blue and beautiful against the blackness of space. "What they don't understand about humans, Susan, is that we've been making do with less for our entire history." Miller looked up, a slow smile forming on her face. "I already see potential here. Their garbage still uses principles we've barely explored. And they've made a critical mistake." "What's that?" "They've underestimated what happens when you back humans into a corner." Miller's eyes glinted with determination. "We'll take their scraps, and we'll build something they never imagined possible." As their ship descended toward the Houston Space Center, Baker felt something he hadn't felt in years, hope mixed with fierce resolve. Back on Earth, the real work began. A special facility was constructed on the far side of the moon, away from prying eyes. The best minds from around the world were quietly recruited. The official name was Project Integration, but among the workers, it soon gained a different nickname, Phoenix. Because from the ashes of alien contempt, humanity would rise. Not as beggars grateful for scraps, but as innovators who could transform trash into treasure. The aliens had meant to keep humans weak. Instead, they had just handed them the keys to the stars. John Baker looked at the busy construction site and smiled. The Zendurians and their allies had made a terrible mistake. They had given humans a challenge, and if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was beating impossible odds. 6 months passed since the Confederation's gift arrived. The lunar facility hummed with activity. Where once there had been only dust and silence, now stood a massive shipyard carved into the moon's surface. The Confederation ships had dumped their loads of scrap and departed quickly, not bothering to see what the humans would do with it. Chief Engineer Susan Miller walked through piles of alien technology, her tablet in hand. She stopped at a large piece of twisted metal, running her hand over its strange surface. Even damaged, it was unlike anything humans had created. "Found something good?" asked Dr. Alan Wright. The quantum physicist had dark circles under his eyes from too many late nights studying alien tech. His excitement never seemed to fade despite the long hours. "This hull section," Susan said. "The material absorbs energy instead of reflecting it. If we could understand how it works." Alan nodded eagerly. It could make a ship nearly invisible to standard sensors. Nearby, materials specialist Kate Jones examined what looked like a damaged engine component. "These drive cores were deliberately sabotaged before they gave them to us," she called out. "But they didn't destroy the main resonance chamber. I think we can rebuild it, maybe even improve it." Susan smiled. That was the story across the entire project. The aliens had given them broken, outdated, and damaged equipment, but they had underestimated human creativity. In another section of the facility, Commander John Baker met with Frank Wilson, the weapons specialist. They stood before a large holographic display showing the skeleton of what would become their ship. "We're combining pieces from 17 different alien vessels," Frank explained. "None of them were meant to work together, but we're making it happen." John nodded. "And the weapons systems?" Frank grinned. "That's where it gets interesting. The Octari gave us fragments of their old defense grid. The Zendurians included disabled weapon mounts. Neither works alone, but we figured out how to combine them with our own railgun technology." "Will it be effective?" John asked. "Better than effective," Frank said. "The hybrid system will be completely unexpected. No standard shield is designed to counter it." The project, unofficially named Phoenix, was taking shape. The ship they were building barely resembled any of the original alien vessels. It was something new, a human creation born from alien scraps. Lisa Rodriguez, in charge of navigation systems, joined them. "We've completely rewired their old nav computers," she said. "By connecting them to our neural networks, we've created a system that learns and adapts. It's faster than anything the Confederation uses." John looked at the growing ship with pride. Every person in the facility worked with the same drive, to prove humanity wouldn't remain at the bottom of the galactic ladder. That evening, John and Susan sat in the small cafeteria, watching Earth rise over the lunar horizon through a reinforced window. "They think we're still studying the basic components," Susan said, sipping her coffee. "Their spies report exactly what we want them to see: confused humans struggling with alien tech." John smiled. "How long until the Phoenix can fly?" 6 more months, maybe less. We're making breakthroughs every day. The crew training is going well, too. And the Confederation has no idea what we're really building." Susan shook her head. "They check in occasionally, but they're so convinced of our inferiority that they barely pay attention. Their ambassador actually patted me on the head during his last visit." John's face hardened. "They'll understand soon enough. Not just what we've built, but who we are." Outside, in the vacuum of the lunar surface, the skeleton of the ship grew larger each day. It wasn't just metal and circuits taking shape. It was humanity's statement to the stars. From the pieces others had discarded, they were creating something the galaxy had never seen. The Phoenix would rise, and when it did, the species that had looked down on humanity would learn a valuable lesson about underestimating the determined underdog. 1 year into the project, the Phoenix took shape in the lunar dock. What had once been piles of alien scrap now formed the sleek outline of a warship unlike any in the galaxy. Its design followed no known Confederation pattern. Instead, it represented something new: human innovation combined with alien technology. Commander John Baker, now promoted to captain, called his leadership team together in the newly constructed bridge. The room hummed with energy as systems came online for the first time. "Status reports," John said, settling into the captain's chair. It felt right, like it had been made for him. Susan Miller spoke first. "Engineering is at 90% completion. The power systems exceed our original estimates by 30%. "How is that possible?" John asked. Susan smiled, her tired eyes brightening. "We discovered the Zendurian reactor cores were deliberately limited before they gave them to us. We not only fixed that, but we improved the energy flow using Earth principles they never considered. The ship can now channel power wherever it's needed most. Weapons, shields, or engines, faster than any Confederation vessel." Frank Wilson stepped forward next. The weapons officer pulled up a holographic display showing the Phoenix's armaments. "We've completed integration of the hybrid weapon systems. The combination of Octari energy weapons and human rail gun technology created something unique." "Will it work?" John asked. "Better than we hoped," Frank replied. "In simulations, it cuts through standard Confederation shields like they're not even there. They've never seen anything like it, so they've never developed defenses against it." Lisa Rodriguez, now navigation officer, nodded in agreement. "The ship's maneuverability is exceptional too. We've rewired their navigational matrix and connected it to our neural networks. The system learns and adapts in real time. The more we fly it, the better it gets." Communications Officer Paul Green, a quiet man with a gift for languages, spoke up. "Communications and sensor systems are fully operational. We've also included something extra, a system that can mimic Confederation identification signals." John raised an eyebrow. "We can pretend to be them." "For a short time, yes," Paul confirmed. "Enough to cause confusion in a battle." John nodded, impressed by his team's ingenuity. Then he turned to the final member of his command staff, Intelligence Officer Maria Clark. Maria's expression was serious. "We've been monitoring Confederation communications. They still have no idea what we're building here. Their reports continue to describe us as struggling to understand basic alien technology. They expect us to produce, at best, a poor copy of their outdated ships." John smiled. "Their overconfidence is our advantage." He stood and walked to the view screen that showed the nearly complete Phoenix. Its hull gleamed under the work lights, a blend of silver and black, with hints of blue where energy systems pulsed beneath the surface. "1 month from today, we launch," John announced. "Our mission will be straightforward. A system patrol to demonstrate Earth's new defensive capabilities to our Confederation allies." Susan joined him at the view screen. "They'll be shocked when they see what we've created." "That's the plan," John agreed. "We need to change how they see us. No longer the primitive species grateful for scraps, but equals worthy of respect." As the meeting ended, the team dispersed to their stations. The final preparations accelerated. Throughout the ship, human workers installed components, ran diagnostics, and trained for their roles. The excitement was palpable. After years of feeling small in a vast galaxy, humanity was about to stand tall. Unknown to the Phoenix crew, events were already in motion that would turn their simple demonstration flight into something far more critical. On the edges of the solar system, sensors picked up unusual activity. Something was coming, something that would test the Phoenix and her crew sooner than anyone expected. The countdown to launch had begun. And with it, the countdown to humanity's new place among the stars. The Phoenix rose from the lunar surface in silence. In space, no one could hear the power of its engines, but everyone watching the screens at Earth Control felt the moment's importance. This wasn't just a ship's first flight. It was humanity's statement to the galaxy. Captain John Baker stood on the bridge, his uniform crisp and new. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with focused intensity. The ship hummed with life, responding to their commands like an extension of their will. All systems functioning at optimal levels, Susan reported from the engineering station. Her fingers moved across the controls, monitoring the power flow. "Set course for Mars orbital path," John ordered. "Standard patrol pattern. Let's show our Confederation observers exactly what they expect to see." Lisa nodded from navigation. "Course plotted, Captain. ETA to Mars orbit. 40 minutes at current speed." The Phoenix moved with grace, despite its size. On the exterior, some sections still showed the original alien metal, while others gleamed with new human components. The result was a patchwork vessel that somehow looked both powerful and elegant. "Confederation observation post is tracking us," Paul announced from communications. "They're asking for identification and purpose." John smiled. "Tell them exactly what they want to hear. This is Earth's new patrol vessel on a routine system check." The response came quickly. As expected, the Confederation observers sounded amused and condescending. They gave permission for the patrol, clearly assuming the Phoenix was nothing more than a poorly assembled collection of their hand-me-downs. "They filed a preliminary report," Maria said, monitoring Confederation channels. "They're calling our ship primitive and barely functional." The bridge crew exchanged knowing smiles. Let the aliens think what they wanted. The truth would reveal itself soon enough. The patrol continued smoothly for 3 hours. The Phoenix performed perfectly, exceeding even its designer's expectations. The crew settled into their roles with growing confidence. Then everything changed. "Captain, emergency transmission from Titan mining colony," Hall said suddenly, his voice tense. "They're under attack." John straightened in his chair. "Put it through." The message was broken and filled with static, but the fear in the voice came through clearly. 3 ships, unknown design, weapons fired on the main dome, need immediate assistance. "How long until Confederation response ships can reach them?" John asked. Maria checked her display. "Nearest patrol is 2 hours away. They've acknowledged the distress call, but..." She paused, listening to her earpiece. "They're not treating it as a priority." John's jaw tightened. Titan is home to 500 civilians, mostly families. He looked at Lisa. "How quickly can we get there?" Lisa's fingers flew over her navigation panel. "At maximum speed, 22 minutes. "Do it," John ordered. "All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill." The Phoenix changed course, its engines pushing to full power. The ship accelerated faster than any Earth vessel had ever moved, streaking toward Saturn's largest moon. "Any identification on the attacking ships?" John asked. Maria studied her readings. "Vex raiders. Pirates. They usually avoid Confederation space." She looked up with suspicion in her eyes. The Confederation Border Patrol should have detected them long before they reached Titan. John's expression hardened. Unless someone let them through. The implications hung in the air. The Confederation claimed to protect Earth and its colonies, but their response to this attack seemed deliberately slow. 17 minutes to Titan, Lisa announced. "Prepare all weapons," John ordered. "We're about to show the galaxy what Phoenix can really do." As the ship raced through space, the crew prepared for battle. None of them had ever faced real combat before. Their training had been in simulations only. But as the minutes ticked down, determination replaced nervousness. The Phoenix was about to have its trial by fire. And the galaxy was about to learn that humans should never be underestimated. The Phoenix dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Titan. The view on the main screen showed immediate chaos. 3 Vex warships, their hulls covered in jagged metal and glowing weapons, fired upon the mining colony's main dome. Emergency shields flickered weakly around the human settlement. "Life signs?" John asked, his voice steady despite the scene before them. Maria checked her sensors. 487 human life signs in the colony. Shields failing. They have maybe 10 minutes before breach. "The Vex ships?" Frank asked, his hands already moving over the weapons controls. "Standard Vex destroyer class," Maria reported. "Each one is considered more powerful than anything humans have ever built." John straightened in his chair. Until today. He turned to Paul. Open a channel to all 3 ships. Paul worked his console. Channel open. Captain. Attention Vex vessels. This is Captain John Baker of the Earth Defense Ship Phoenix. You are attacking a civilian colony. Withdraw immediately or face consequences. The response came quickly, harsh laughter followed by a gravelly voice. Humans sending 1 ship. Your arrogance exceeds your reputation. We will destroy you, then finish with the colony. John cut the communication. They've never seen this ship before. They have no idea what we've built. He looked at his crew. Let's show them. The Phoenix moved forward, positioning itself between the Vex ships and the colony. Target the lead vessel, John ordered. Hybrid weapons only. Let's see what they can do. Frank's fingers danced across his console. Target locked. Hybrid weapons charge. Fire. The Phoenix unleashed its first real attack. Beams of energy, unlike anything seen in Confederation space, lanced out from the ship. They struck the lead Vex vessel where its shields should have been strongest. Instead of being stopped or deflected, the beams cut through the shields like they weren't there. The Vex ship shuddered as energy tore through its outer hull. Direct hit, Frank reported, surprise in his voice. Their shields offered almost no resistance. The other 2 Vex ships immediately changed focus, turning their weapons on the Phoenix. Incoming fire, Lisa warned. Evasive maneuvers. The Phoenix moved with impossible grace for a ship its size, spinning and rolling away from the enemy fire. The few hits that landed were absorbed by shields far stronger than the Vex expected. Return fire, John ordered. All weapons. The Phoenix's full arsenal came alive. Rail guns fired projectiles at speeds approaching light, while energy weapons targeted sensitive systems. The ship's neural navigation matrix predicted enemy movements, placing shots exactly where the Vex ships would be most vulnerable. On the main Vex ship, the captain watched in growing horror as his sensors reported the impossible. This human vessel was cutting through their defenses with technology that shouldn't exist, and somehow it seemed to know exactly where to hit them. What is this ship? He demanded of his crew. No one had answers. Back on the Phoenix, John watched calmly as the battle unfolded. Status of Vex vessels. Lead ship has lost weapons and engines, Maria reported. Second ship showing critical damage to power systems. Third attempting to retreat. Disable the third ship's engines but leave life support intact, John ordered. I want all 3 crews alive. The final shots from the Phoenix were surgical in their precision. The third Vex ship drifted to a stop, powerless, but with its crew chambers intact. Silence fell on the bridge as the crew realized what they had just accomplished. 3 enemy warships, each supposedly superior to anything humans could field, disabled in less than 5 minutes. Send message to Earth Control, John said quietly. Titan colony secured. 3 Vex ships neutralized. No casualties on our side. Request instructions regarding prisoners. He turned to look at his crew. Pride filled his chest at what they had accomplished. And send a copy of the battle records to our Confederation allies, he added with a slight smile. I think they'll find it educational. As the Phoenix hovered protectively near the Titan colony, word of its victory was already spreading. Humanity had just announced its presence on the galactic stage in a way no one could ignore. News of the Phoenix's victory spread quickly. The ship returned to Earth orbit as a hero, escorted by every available human vessel. Captain John Baker and his crew were celebrated around the world. For the first time, humanity had stood against a superior alien force, and won decisively. The Confederation's response was not celebration, but alarm. 3 days after the battle, a Zendurian diplomatic vessel arrived at Earth. Ambassador Krax requested an immediate meeting with Earth's leaders and an inspection of the Phoenix. In the large conference room at Earth Control, John sat with Susan, United Earth President Laura Foster, and Defense Chief Richard Owen. Across from them, Ambassador Krax and 4 other alien representatives looked distinctly uncomfortable. "The terms of our agreement are clear," Krax said, his translator making his voice sound flat. "All technological developments derived from Confederation materials must be inspected and approved." President Foster smiled politely. "The Phoenix is an Earth vessel, built by human hands. Using our technology," an Octari representative countered. "Using your scraps," Susan corrected. "Materials you considered worthless." Krax's upper eye ridge twitched with irritation. "Nevertheless, we must insist on a full inspection. The weapon systems on your ship exceed what should be possible with the components provided." John leaned forward. "Because we improved them. That was the point of your assistance, wasn't it? To help us develop." The aliens exchanged glances. Their discomfort was clear. Defense Chief Owen slid a datapad across the table. "Our intelligence division has uncovered some interesting communications." John watched Krax pick up the pad. The alien's 6 fingers tightened around it as he read. The color drained from his blue skin. "Where did you get this?" Krax demanded. "We're more capable than you believed," Owen replied calmly. Maria Clark entered the room, carrying another datapad. She handed it to John before taking a seat. "We've finished analyzing the Vex ship's navigation data," she reported. "They entered our system through Checkpoint Gamma 9. A Confederation border station gave them clearance." President Foster's expression hardened. "You let pirates into our system deliberately." "That is a serious accusation," Krax began, but John interrupted by activating a recording from Maria's pad. A Confederation officer's voice filled the room. "The humans need a demonstration of their vulnerability. One mining colony is an acceptable loss to ensure their continued dependence on our protection." Silence fell over the room. The aliens no longer looked merely uncomfortable. They looked caught. "The Vex attack wasn't random," John said. "It was sanctioned. You wanted us to fail, to beg for more of your assistance, to become completely dependent on the Confederation. We never expected casualties," Krax said weakly. "Just enough damage to prove a point." "The point you proved was different than the one you intended," President Foster said. Her voice was ice cold. "You showed us that we cannot trust you as allies." John stood up. "The Phoenix will not be surrendered for inspection. In fact, it's just the first of its kind. We have 5 more advanced vessels under construction using what we learned." This was not entirely true, but the alarm on the aliens' faces made the bluff worthwhile. "Earth is withdrawing from the Associate Membership Agreement," President Foster announced. "We will establish our own presence in space, free from your manipulation." Krax rose quickly. "This is not wise. The Confederation has many resources at its disposal." "So do we," John replied. "You just didn't recognize them because they looked like determination and ingenuity instead of advanced technology." As the Confederation representatives left, John and his team remained in the conference room. The decision they had just made would change humanity's future forever. "They won't accept this easily," Susan warned. "The Phoenix might have won one battle, but the Confederation has thousands of ships." "Not like ours," John replied. "And we'll build more. Starting today, Earth stands on its own." Outside the window, the Phoenix orbited silently, its hull gleaming in the sunlight. What had begun as a pile of alien scraps had become humanity's declaration of independence among the stars. 5 years passed since Earth's stand against the Confederation. Those years had not been peaceful. The Phoenix, once alone, now led a small fleet of similar vessels, each built using the lessons learned from the first. Humanity had spread to several nearby star systems, establishing colonies free from alien control. The Confederation, as expected, had not accepted human independence gracefully. There had been battles, blockades, and constant pressure to force Earth back into its place. Captain John Baker, now Admiral Baker, stood on the bridge of the Phoenix. The ship showed signs of its many battles, but each scar told a story of survival. Its systems had been upgraded repeatedly, incorporating new technologies discovered or invented during the ongoing conflict. Susan joined him at the view screen. Her red hair now had streaks of gray, but her eyes remained sharp and determined. Confederation fleet approaching from Vector 7, she reported. 47 ships, including the Zendurian flagship. John nodded calmly. Signal the rest of our fleet. Battle positions. Outside, 11 Earth vessels moved into formation. Though vastly outnumbered, these ships had proven themselves time and again. Each represented human innovation at its finest. They're asking for communication, Paul said from his station. Put it through, John ordered. The screen changed to show Ambassador Krax. The Zendurian looked older, his blue skin faded to a paler shade. Admiral Baker, Krax said. His tone lacked the condescension of years past. The Confederation Council has authorized me to negotiate terms. John raised an eyebrow. What terms would those be? Recognition of Earth as an independent power. Limited technology exchange. Trade agreements. Peace. The bridge crew exchanged surprised glances. This was unexpected. Why the change of heart, Ambassador? John asked. Krax's expression was difficult to read, but something like respect showed in his eyes. What your people have accomplished with what we gave you. It was never thought possible. You have changed how the Confederation views your species. John considered this. And the attacks on our colonies. The blockades. To end. Immediately. We recognize that continuing this conflict serves neither of us. After 5 years of struggle and sacrifice, the words were almost too good to believe. John looked at Susan, who nodded slightly. Their sensors detected no deception, no hidden fleet waiting to attack. We will need to discuss your proposal with Earth's government, John said. But I am authorized to arrange a ceasefire while negotiations take place. The details were agreed upon quickly. As the communication ended, a cautious celebration broke out on the Phoenix's bridge. Later, John stood with his original crew in the ship's observation deck. Through the large window, they watched as Confederation vessels maintained a respectful distance from the Earth fleet. For the first time, the two forces shared space without hostility. Do you think it will last? Frank asked. I think it has to, John replied. They finally understand that we're not going away. And we've proven we can defend ourselves. Lisa smiled. Not bad for a bunch of primitives with scraps. Maria looked thoughtfully at the distant Zendurian flagship. The reports from our intelligence network suggest other species under Confederation control have taken note of what we've done. Some are beginning to demand better treatment. Susan touched the wall of the Phoenix gently. We didn't just build a warship. We built a symbol. John nodded. They gave us scraps, thinking it would keep us dependent and weak. Instead, it forced us to innovate in ways they never imagined. Paul, who rarely spoke unless necessary, summed it up perfectly. They underestimated human creativity. As the Earth fleet and Confederation vessels established their ceasefire positions, the Phoenix remained at the center of the formation. From piles of alien garbage, humans had forged not just a warship, but a new future. They had earned their place among the stars not through advanced technology gifted to them, but through determination, ingenuity, and the uniquely human ability to transform limitations into strengths. The galaxy would never make the mistake of underestimating humanity again.